This is the news on NTA International. We are live in Abuja. I am Lami Ali. Hannah Olainka is the sign language interpreter. This news can be viewed on our various social media platforms displayed on the screen. And now the headlines. Strategic efforts towards implementation of comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program underway. Federal government reaffirms its commitment towards achieving sustainable development goals with premium on food security, management of water and sanitation for all. Kenya mourns as world marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum dies alongside his coach in an auto crash. Africa is at a critical juncture on climate change and food security. Hence, urgent and concerted action is required to avert food crisis. This is why a strategic meeting by AUDA and NTAi on climate change, food systems and resource mobilization aimed at implementing the comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program with focus on the smallholder farmers is ongoing at a two-day stakeholders engagement in Abuja. Charles Alpha brings us the story.
A United Nations report has it that Africa is currently facing its worst food crisis ever, with more than 1 in 5 Africans, a record of 278 million people facing hunger. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's ambitious targets on tackling climate change to guarantee food sufficiency led to his declaration of a state of emergency in Nigeria to avert a catastrophe. This two-day engagement meeting by the African Union Development Agency, AUDA and NTAi, holding in Abuja, Nigeria, with governors, diplomats, investors, and policymakers on climate change, food systems, and resource mobilization is in furtherance of a search for solution.
So to tackle these challenges and align with Agenda 2063 and the CADE post-Malabo agenda, a holistic framework is imperative.
Of course, our current investment in adaptation as well as in the food system value chain are still short.
Changing weather patterns and natural disasters such as floods have become a major threat to productive capacity of smallholder farmers.
Here, AUDA and NTAi Nigeria stands at the forefront of the charge in facilitating resilient food systems through empowerment of smallholder farmers and restoration of 100 million hectares of degraded lands for smart agriculture.
We need to ensure that food is available and affordable for all by supporting the smallholder farmers project through large-scale investment on forest landscape and ecosystem restoration.
One of our major priorities is to foster vibrant agribusiness ecosystem.
If we can achieve the target of what we've come to do, I can assure you, jobs will be created.
Implementation of the comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program under the African Union is a policy framework designed to create agricultural transformation, food security, nutrition, economic growth by empowering smallholder farmers. Identifying the unique challenges smallholder farmers face to accelerate food security in Nigeria have been recommended as the way out of hunger. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Now, the Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service says it is determined to ensure that Nigerian agricultural produce has access to international commodity markets. The agency says it will collaborate with the Nigeria Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority to facilitate trade and safeguarding the agricultural economy of the country. Acting Comptroller General of Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service, Dr. Godwin Audu, stated this as he engaged Managing Director of the Nigeria Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, Bamanga Jada. The quarantine service boss said they are ready to support exporters in meeting standards, facilitating a seamless process for those who adhere to regulatory requirements. Now, from India comes the report that police in that country has blocked roads to hold farmers who were marching to New Delhi to press for the better crops prices promised to them in 2021 when thousands of growers camped out on major highways leading to the country's capital. Comfort Fashion tells us more.
This march came just a month before national elections in India, in which Prime Minister Narendra Modi is widely expected to win a third term. Farmers and tractors drove towards Delhi from the northern states of Punjab and Haryana, and barriers including barbed wire fencing and cement blocks put up on the edges of the city to stop them. Police also issued orders prohibiting public gatherings in Delhi. The farmers came out after a call by union leaders to demand higher support or guarantee prices for their produce and pressed the government to meet its promise to double farmers' income. Governments usually announce support prices for more than 20 crops each year to set a benchmark, but state agencies buy only rice and wheat at the support level, which benefits only about 6% of farmers who raise those two crops. However, the government said it will set up a panel of growers and government officials to find ways to ensure support prices for all farm produce. Comfort Fashion, NTA News.
Now, the Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission has raided 10 warehouses containing assorted foodstuffs as the popular Dawano International Grains Market in Kano Metropolis. Chairman of the commission, Muhi Magaji, who led the raid, says the operation became imperative to check the incessant increase of prices of essential commodities, which is compounding the hardship faced by Nigerians. Our Salihu has the details.
Nearly 2 days after a threat to clamp down on all dealers found to be hoarding essential commodities, the Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission sealed several warehouses containing goods worth millions of naira in the commercial hub of northern Nigeria. Led by the chairman of the commission, Muhuyi Magajiri Mangado, the raid saw many warehouses located along the popular grain market in Dawanau and others at Singa and Quarry markets in the metropolis sealed.
All we want to achieve is to force the goods back to the market, because we believe artificial inflation arises when people put stocks and engage in hoarding activities to create artificial scarcity. So when the demand is high and the supply is low, the ultimate goal is the price will go off.
During the unscheduled visit, the stores sealed off were stocked with essential commodities, including grains, millets, sugar and spaghetti, among others. Muhi Magaji maintained that the operation became necessary to check the incessant increase of price of essential commodities, which is compounding the hardship faced by Nigerians.
We are looking for a solution now. We are not looking for trouble. We are looking for a solution, and that is our ultimate goal. So now we are doing it at least to tell them that we know what you are doing and we will not allow it. If they succumb, no problem. Those that feel they contest the will of the commission, then let us see who will win at the end of the day.
While at Singa Market, Muhui discussed extensively with leadership of the market on the issues with a view to find a lasting solution. In Kano, Awal Salisu, NTA News.
And Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has again appealed to Nigerians to bear with the current administration as it works hard to tackle challenges. She made the appeal at the palace of Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, during a visit to the state, boldly declaring that the administration means well and will stop at nothing to bring relief to Nigerians. The First Lady urges the people to keep hope alive during this phase of economic recovery in the country. Pronouncing royal blessings on his visitor, the Emir of Kano applauded her interventions among vulnerable members of the society, noting that they have brought succor to many, while urging her to sustain efforts at improving girl-child education in Nigeria. The Emir also called on the federal government to further enlighten Nigerians and clear their doubt on its policies, particularly on the relocation of some offices from Abuja. In another development, Another feather has been added to the cap of Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu with the naming of the School of Law building as the Mariam Abacha American University, Kano, after her. The inauguration of the building was performed by the First Lady as the university's main campus in Kano, with eminent Nigerians, including the Deputy Senate President Jibrin Barrow and state governors in attendance. Unveiling the building, the First Lady applauded private efforts to expand the frontiers of education in Nigeria, noting that such interventions are required to build an informed and productive society. Founder and chairman of the governing board of the institution, Professor Gorzo, says naming the institution after the First Lady is consistent with the university's tradition of recognizing and promoting excellence. With about 50 students who were introduced to the First Lady, the Faculty of Law is one of the 5 schools in the institution. West Africa's main economic and political bloc, ECOWAS, has sent a diplomatic mission to Senegal to discuss the political situation there following a delay in its presidential election. This is contained in a statement issued by the bloc's parliamentary office on Monday. The statement said during the February 12th to 14th mission, the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Sidi Mohamed Tunis, and members of the Assembly will meet Senegalese authorities, politicians and representatives of civil society organizations. Now, the African Development Bank and the UN Refugee Agency have said they are partnering to support displaced people and their host communities in South Sudan. Fashion Comfort has more.
Since the start of the war in neighboring Sudan last year, over 500,000 people have arrived in the country where resources are already overstretched. Most of the arrivals are South Sudanese who had been in Sudan for decades. Many are heading back to villages that barely have any services and where there is no humanitarian assistance available. The African Development Bank and the UN Refugee Agency have said they are partnering to support displaced persons and their host communities in South Sudan.
What we've seen is that there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of projects that they could be funding. We've heard from the authorities the importance of building a bridge that will expand the land that is available to refugees and to returnees. We heard of the possibility of building a dam that would reduce the impact of the floods that are affecting the region on a regular basis.
Senior officials from the African Development Bank and UNHCR paid a joint visit to Jendrasa refugee camp in South Sudan's Upper Nile state. Marie-Laure Akin-Olugbade, the bank's vice president for regional development, integration and business delivery, and Raouf Mazou, UNHCR's assistant high commissioner for operations, met with governments, authorities, refugees and members of the host community.
We are really looking to, help empower the youth and the women of this refugee camp and to give them opportunities to be really positive contributors in their host communities and bring about the skills, the knowledge that they had when the crisis struck, where they were coming from, and which they are bringing in the host communities.
The visit came in the context of deepening ties between the two institutions, as well as strengthening collaborations among humanitarian and development actors globally. Comforts, Fashion, NTA News.
Watching the news on NTA International from our studios here in Abuja. We're now going for a short break. Do stay tuned.
From the boardroom at the
Now, civil society organizations have been mobilizing resources and advocacy to draw the attention of governments at all levels, as well as public office holders, to imbibe the culture of transparency and accountability for national growth and economic rejuvenation. African Network for Environment and Economic Justice is championing this cause through building capacities of media practitioners and civil society organizations to launch the campaign on special drawing rights from the funds allocated by the International Monetary Fund to countries including Nigeria. Ilyasu Yakubu has the story.
A drawing right fund is an international reserve asset created by the IMF to supplement the official reserves of its member countries. Since 2020, the project has been providing the capacity to mobilize $40 billion interest-free loans for the poorest members through 2024. These financing helps support growth, enhancing reforms in these countries. So far, these loans have benefited 56 countries, and observers said it could benefit more in the years ahead. This advocacy campaign is built to sensitize government at all levels on the need to effectively utilize these resources for the benefit of all Nigerians.
This SDR comes when you have global crisis, and we may expect another global crisis. So if we did not do well in this, how are we sure we're going to do well in the forthcoming grants and support?
An urgent need to ensure that the SDR is well utilized, as well as create awareness around its utilization.
The event was organized by the African Network for Environment and Economic Justice and Edge, supported by Gates and Melinda Foundation in collaboration with the African Forum and Network on Debt and Development, Harare, Zimbabwe. In Abuja, Ilyasu Yakubu, NTA News.
Effective legislation is needed for Nigeria to get it right in addressing challenges in the power sector before the year 2030. This was the position of leadership of the National Assembly at the first annual Legislative Summit on Renewable Energy, organized by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies in collaboration with Asola Energy. Muhammad Rabiu Ali reports.
The value of electricity to economic growth and development of every nation is becoming more apparent by the day. Nigeria is not an exception, considering the efforts made by the successive administrations for more access to electricity, its affordability and sustainability. This meeting of key players is one of the ways to explore effective usage of renewable energy in Nigeria, backed the laws of the land.
The recent passage of the Electricity Act 2023 and the Constitution Alteration Act 2023 have provided us with an unprecedented opportunity to harness the potentials of renewable energy and revolutionize the way we power this blessed nation. The Electricity Act 2023 extended this movement to its core for privatization of renewable energy and empowerment of state and local governments to set up their own legal framework and even invest directly in renewable energy.
And what we need is for the legislature, we will need for you to give us back what you think, how efficient it is. Do we need to tweak the law to make it a little better? So we in these parts that have some of these sources of renewable energy, how well are we doing to enhance them?
At the end of the summit, key players believe that far-reaching recommendations will be brought forward to improve on the power generation and distribution, as well as provide sustainable approaches and targeted collaborations from domestic and international investors in renewable energy usage. In Abuja, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
The federal government, through Ministry of Water Resources, says Nigeria is committed towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, which encompasses ending poverty, ensuring food security, sustainable agriculture, as well as improved and sustained management of water and sanitation for all. Usman Zubairu reports that this came to the fore at the 30th regular meeting of Water Resources and Sanitation with the theme People, Planet and Prosperity, promoting water governance for national food security, holding in Abuja.
One of the cardinal objectives of governments at all levels to ensure everyone have access to safer water, sanitation and hygiene. This remained one of the top priorities of President Tinubu's Renewable mantra. The 30th regular meeting of the National Council of Water Resources is an opportunity to discuss development in the water sector, evaluate issues, address identified challenges, and chart a way forward. Declaring the meeting open, Minister of Federal Capital Territory, represented by Permanent Secretary Udo Samuel, encouraged the participants to look at their peculiarities and come up with the relevant memoranda to address challenges of water and sanitation sector.
So that here in the Federal Capital Territory, our astute commitment in water, sanitation and hygiene remains strong and irrevocable.
Chairman Technical Committee and Permanent Secretary Federal Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation noted that this year council meeting will focus on water governance and its role towards the promotion of national food security.
We should also deliberate on and fashion mechanisms by which the three tiers of government, as well as the private sector, can utilize the impounded water in our dams and reservoirs for irrigation activities.
Speaking of the theme, People's Planet and Prosperity, promoting water governance for national food security, guest speaker Eno Musa said the National Water Resources Master Plan indicates that Nigeria has sufficient groundwater which can be harnessed to adequately meet the current water demand for domestic consumption and other development activities. The meeting, which will last for 3 days, is responsible for drafting current national water policy for the nation. In Abuja, Usman Zubairu, NTA News.
Into sports news now. World marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum and his coach Jarvis Hakizimana died in a car crash in western Kenya, and a woman passenger was seriously injured. Comfort Fashion has the reports.
Kiptum was barely a teenager when he began following elite athlete training in the high-altitude region. He burst onto the marathon scene in 2022 with a stunning debut in the 26.2-mile distance in Valencia, where he clocked 2 hours, 1 minute and 53 seconds. Less than a year later, and racing only his third marathon, Kiptum shattered the world record in Chicago, becoming the first man to run under 2 hours and 1 minute in a record-eligible race. Kiptum ran a world record 2 minutes 35 seconds in the Chicago Marathon in October, 35 seconds off fellow Kenyan Eliud Kipchoge's previous record. Known for maintaining a grueling training schedule that sometimes surpassed 300 kilometers a week, Kiptum had only recently announced he was hoping to smash the mythic 2-hour mark in Rotterdam in April. Until his death, he was one of the most exciting new prospects to emerge in road running in recent years. Comfort Fashion, NTA News.
Now, aftermath of the Super Eagles losing it to the AFCON 2023 final to host Côte d'Ivoire, sports enthusiasts have been assessing the performance of the Nigerian team and the way forward. Austin Demodu tells us more.
The champions of Africa, Côte d'Ivoire, on home soil.
Hosts Ivory Coast have ended Nigeria's quest for fourth African Cup of Nations title following a 2-1 win over the Super Eagles in the final in Côte d'Ivoire. Interestingly, the Super Eagles had beaten the Ivorians 1-0 in their group stage encounter in the tournament. What eventually went wrong in the final?
Our players yesterday, we didn't know what was wrong with them, because it was a full squad, so it was just as if they left their legs behind and came to the field. So it wasn't a great performance at all.
Côte d'Ivoire had home advantage, almost 50,000 fans cheering them on. That's very difficult playing in those circumstances. I think they just wanted it more. Not like Nigeria didn't play well. We played well, we scored the first goal, but we couldn't keep that momentum to the end of the match. And I think tactically our bench wasn't very, very good.
However, some football fans believe that the Super Eagles players and their coach, Jose Peseiro, still deserve some praise.
Honestly, they did very well. They tried their best.
We know where our football is coming. The 2023 AFCON tournament is over, and now it's time for the Super Eagles to focus on the bigger picture of the FIFA World Cup African qualifying campaign. With Sports Update, I'm Austin Edemodu, NTA News.
Next is a check on Tuesday's weather prospects for Nigeria and some cities of the world. And this is where we end the news. Thank you for watching. I'm Lami Ali, and my sign language interpreter has been Hannah Olenka. Do have a very good evening.